Hey folks, welcome to another episode of Arcane Assist. I'm Tim, joined this week by Evan.
Sup?
And we're doing something a little bit fun and different. The list that I'm playing is fairly straightforward. It's Pat Dunford's list from the Iron Gauntlet. It's a really cool list. I'm going to play it a little bit less expertly than him, no doubt. But a Dark Menagerie theme with the Heretic. I'm playing the Heretic with a battle group of 2 Skin and Moans, 3 Cage Ragers, 3 Gorehounds, and 2 Crabbits, free from the theme force. I also have 4 Gremlin Swarms and the Death Knell. So pretty simple, pretty straightforward. This is obviously a very strong, really compelling 75-point Steamroller list designed to be played at the highest level. It's the list that Pat won the finals in the Iron Gauntlet with, and it's the kind of competitive game focus that you'd expect to see from our channel. We are facing this off against one of the alternate timeline casters.
Something a little bit different.
Yeah, our goal here is to have a caster that we're playing with a bit of an open mind and a bit of a perspective on. So Evan's list today is played with Lord Ghyrrshyld of House Vyre, who's the -1 version of Goreshade, not to be confused with the 4 version of him. We want to sort of treat this with the seriousness that you'd expect from a standard battle report. We're playing him as if he's sort of a week 1 or 2 CID caster, somebody that we want to kind of evaluate the impact that they have on the table. We're playing him in a theme force that we feel like he supports well and that kind of gives him some dynamic presence on the table. If this is, if you're just like, oh, it's one of the technically non-casters, I'm not interested in watching a report with this, let us know in the comments. Tell us, give us that feedback. If it's still interesting and still stimulating and you think the game kind of holds up in terms of the quality you'd expect from us on a week-to-week basis, let us know that as well.
Sounds good. So into the list, we have Goreshade and his battle group of a Banshee and a Phoenix, a Dawnguard Sentinel Scyir with a Harpy as its marshal, a Dawnguard Destor Thane, 3 Arcanists, and Iris are my solos. Iris and the Destor Thane being free. We have 2 units of Dawnguard Sentinels with unit attachments, and one of them having a Solus escort, just because I had a point.
Yeah, it's. I think it's a really good list. I think it's a kind of compelling and interesting list. I think just in case anybody doesn't know the Goreshade -1 caster, we'll go over his toolbox a little bit, just right quickly.
Yeah, for sure. So, Goreshade has a speed 6, mat 7, def 15, arm 16 are the relevant parts of that stat line, with a range 2, pow 14 sword that is blessed and magical.
It's not Nissor's sword, notably, because in this version of the timeline, he never goes dark, never becomes a evil eldritch vampire, and never kills Nissor and takes his sword.
Instead, he becomes kind of a noble, a Narcissar for the Retribution,
Yep.
and becomes a cool leader. So to represent that, he has veteran leader Retribution Warrior. He's kind of an exemplar of their kind, so he inspires the guys around him. And he has Witchhound, which we've seen on Resnick 1. Super cool ability. Basically, anytime anything in the battle group is hit with a spell, one of the models in the battle group can advance up to 3 inches and make a melee attack.
A little bit like Goreshade 1, he has Mage Blight, which is no longer a spell in Mark 3. It's pretty cool.
Good riddance.
It's a 5-cost spell that prevents living enemy models from feeding or casting spells. Not great into GRYMKIN because it does not prevent Arcana. It does prevent spellcasting, but it's probably more of a situational one. Mm-hmm. He's also a pretty upkeep-heavy caster. He has Polarity Shield, Failsafe, and Arcane Reckoning?
Arcane Reckoning, the one that gives Whiplash.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool spell. It's an old Kael'thas spell that didn't make the cut this time around.
And he has 2 nukes.
Yeah, Arcantrix Bolt.
Arcantric Bolt and Hex Blast.
Mm-hmm. And his feat, very much like Goreshade 1's feat that creates the Min Warrior Banes, this one creates a light Warjack with 3 focus on it that gets immediately added to his battle group.
Yep, and again, like Goreshade 1's feat, they can fully activate.
Yeah, it's a neat. He's a neat caster. I don't think anything on this card is outrageous. I think he's an interesting support caster who kind of borrows a little bit from what Virus 2 does, borrows a little bit from what Goreshade 1 does, and nothing here seems totally unreasonable. We're playing him with a fairly straightforward linear list to kind of showcase some of his support tools.
All right, sounds good. So let's hop into deployment.
So we're playing Mirage, which I think is actually a really interesting scenario. It's a new one in the packet, and obviously we want to show it off as much as possible because relative to the last year, a lot of the scenarios stayed quite similar in SteamRoller 2018. This is one of the ones that is very new. It has echoes of Incursion. Feels a little bit like a couple of the versions that have been play tested a few times before. Feels a lot like Radial Deployment, which is a thing that most people don't even remember, but is a fun throwback for me. I deployed the Death Knell centrally. I deployed Skin and Moans in positions to take advantage of their Lurker Animus over the rough terrain, sort of fighting around the middle. I deployed Gremlin Swarms all in positions to possibly either capture or contest the relevant flags, and I've deployed a little bit wider than a brick list might normally want to be as a concession to the aggressive scenario geometry.
Yep. So I put Goreshade right up the middle, a Phoenix onto the top side of the board so I can arc some upkeep spells onto the Sentinels I'm going to be putting there, and a Banshee right up next to me so that he can control the middle of the table with his gun, as well as be a pretty aggressive jack with his high-pow weapons. I'm going to put another unit of Sentinels in the bottom half of the table, basically right below where the Banshee is currently. And then on the bottom side of that forest, there's going to go the Destor Thane. He's going to kind of flank around, be a good charging piece that also gets to go in and score a flag in the late game. He's going to kind of hang back until he has his moment. And then on the top side, we're also going to put the Scyir with his marshaled Harpy. In terms of terrain, there's a lot on this table. There's a water in my deployment, a forest in my deployment, and then as we move along to the left, a rubble on the top side, along with a wall on the bottom, then two obstructions, one on the top, one on the bottom, another forest almost directly in the middle of the table, and then two walls near Tim's side. So there's a lot on the table, and I don't have a huge amount of Pathfinder outside of charging. Thankfully, that isn't going to be too hard for me, because as long as Tim wants to come to my half of the table, he has to pass that forest, so I'm going to be doing okay. And Tim, into your first turn.
Before I jump into my plan for the first turn here, it's worth acknowledging that we do have a single proxy. Obviously, Goreshade -1, or Lord Ghyrrshyld, is being represented by the Goreshade 4 model, which I think is probably the best in-game option to represent him. He's got, the redemption of Scyir. This is the sort of was never corrupted in the first place version.
Makes sense.
Gorehounds run wide. They're making use of their extended control area. They're both hiding behind buildings in the hopes that they can kind of walk out, kill something, and then ghostly back behind it. It's, again, pretty centrally deployed. Skin and Moans puts a Gorehound in the forest of the middle. The two cage riders behind the wall are a little awkwardly positioned because they can't really charge out from there, but that's as far forward as they can get. Posturing pretty aggressively with Skin and Moans and placing Gremlin Swarms to make use of their Serenity this turn. I didn't apparition the Gremlin Swarms in the first turn. I just sort of forgot, but they can go basically as far as I want them to go this turn anyway, so that's okay. I'm a little bit leery. The things in Evan's list that are best at killing Gremlin Swarms are jacks. So in matchups where I'd normally be using them to kind of aggressively pick away at his battle group, I actually want to keep them a little bit safe from those pieces. So I'm going to end up playing them a little bit conservatively this matchup. Heretic walks up his 6 inches, places a firewall. Evan promptly says, "Oh no, I want a firewall that I can stand in," which is fair. It is a template that you're allowed to stand in. So he's going to go ahead and replace that with a template in a second here. And I also put up Elusive and Fury on the Skin and Moans directly in front of me. I'm not totally convinced that Fury is going to stay there. It sort of depends a little bit what Evan puts in front of him. If he gets a beat on something like the Banshee, then he'll probably want Fury to finish it. But if he's just trying to kill Sentinels, he might not need it, depending on if they feed or not. And I throw the Death Knell right up the middle of the board, trying to put its aura out and get more Sentinels into collection range as early as possible. The Crabbits just advance.
So I see that Tim's moved up the Death Knell super aggressively through the middle of the table, and I feel like since he has not a whole lot in the middle to protect it, I'm going to position in such a way that next turn I'm going to be able to get onto it and start doing some damage to it, and hopefully take it out early, as that makes basically everything in the list a lot easier to kill for me. And it gets rid of some corpse delivery mechanisms that he has, with the ability to gather soul or corpses from 8 inches out and then give them to a Skin and Moans, and then hopefully I'll get rid of that. The Phoenix is going to position in such a way that he's outside of threat range of the Skin and Moans.
You actually went a little bit further back even than that because you're anxious that I might try like a cute gallows play or something.
Yeah. The Sentinels are going to set up in more or less 3 waves. I like doing this with basically any Vengeance unit. You have 3 lines of models, basically so that if the first line dies, the second line is far enough forward that they can Vengeance and then charge most things. And then the third line is there so that if you happen to get if they happen to dig deeper than you think and kill some of the second line models, you still have more in the third line to keep going forward, and also keep some back for future turns so you're not giving all your Sentinels up immediately, or whatever Vengeance unit you happen to have. Do the same thing with the bottom unit. Line 2 is going to be just beyond the wall. Line 3 is going to be behind the objective. Line 1 is going to be far up, aggressively just behind the firewall.
Yeah, the Sentinels are really the meat and potatoes of this list, so playing them well is absolutely essential.
At first, I want to flank really hard with the Sentinel Scyir, but I decide that since the Gorehound's just hiding right behind that building, I'm going to go a little bit closer to my side of the table in the middle, basically hide behind the building so that he doesn't have line of sight so I can't get charged, so that I don't give him a free Destor Thane.
I like that you can see in the shot here that we're both wearing War Machine shirts.
Yeah, that's pretty great.
Evan's wearing his War Machine Weekend shirt, and I'm wearing my Southern Ontario Open shirt. Both excellent conventions, I might add.
Yeah. We go to both of them,
It's
clearly.
every year.
So it's on to your turn 2. What's the plan?
So it's a little bit tricky. I'd like to send Gorehounds out and just do a bunch of work. So my thought here is I've got 2 Gorehounds who can go in on a bunch of Sentinels, maybe kill like 4 or 5 Sentinels from one unit, ignore the other unit almost entirely, and then place a firewall to make Vengeance really unproductive. I'd like that to be an opportunity to collect a whole bunch of corpses, so I can put a second corpse on one of the Skin and Moans, filling those guys up as early as possible. I feel like in the way things are positioned, I'm kind of going to have to give you an Alpha Strike here, mostly because of the scenario more than anything else. I just want to be in your zone already. So one of the things that I do here is I position the Death Knell so that it can basically move up to get more of the Sentinels into its range. I want to get 3 Sentinels at least into the Death Knell's range so that it collects enough corpses to fill itself back up after it delivers one. So I'm going to go just to melee range to get one of these Sentinels in here. And then my hope is that I can prevent almost all of these Sentinels from being able to charge the Death Knell. I think the Sentinels can kill it. I think the Banshee can't quite. And that's what I'm gambling on here. Banshee needs a 6 to hit, which is kind of awkward. So he has to kind of make decisions about boosting or charging. And with the 6 to hit, I think you maybe miss 1 of your 4 attacks. Those attacks are dice even, so 3 attacks do 21 damage, just 22 boxes. Maybe I can jam it up. Maybe I can make it so you have to charge. Like that's the kind of the thinking that I'm going through here. And if I get lucky, maybe you put some damage into it incidentally to soften it up, and then you have to kill something like a Crabbit on the way in, and I can trigger sacrifice. That's my line of thinking here. I'm hoping I can protect that Death Knell or force you to overcommit to it. So, Gorehound from the middle goes in, kills a couple of Sentinels, rolls a couple of 4s here, 3s, and misses some attacks. But it goes to 3 Fury, and I'm totally fine with it just basically being in there, jamming up the Banshee, forcing you to use some other things to kill it, generally being irritating. The Gorehound over here moves to just in melee range of these 2 Sentinels. First one, it hits and then kills. Fills that corpse cart right up to full. And the second one, it makes an attack, buys another attack, and I decide I want to sprint behind the building rather than make a 3rd attack on that Sentinel. Bunch of 4s there. That's okay. I mean, he needs 5s to hit, but... Or sorry, 6s to hit. Missed a few times.
Yeah.
Little bit below average dice. Would have been nice to kill a couple more Sentinels this turn. That's okay. I think I killed, 3? Or was it 4?
I think it was 3.
Yeah.
Gremlin Swarm going to run up super aggressively.
base to base with the Banshee, which is important because now you have to kill a Gremlin Swarm before you activate the Banshee, or possibly give it -2 to hit, which would be a huge deal, or -2 damage, which would also be a huge deal, or -2 speed, which would prevent it from getting it on the Death Knell at all.
Correct.
I position a Skin and Moans so that it's in charge range of 1 Sentinel, but out for the rest of them. It's probably fine there. I want it to be able to threaten a counterpunch. Really do some damage to whatever Evan puts there. And I decided to do something sort of cute here. I didn't expect Evan to flank quite as hard with the Siren, the Marshaled Siren. So I end up running the Cage Rager over so that the Heretic can cycle Fury over to the Gorehound. I sort of see this play late in the turn, so I shouldn't probably have upkept, but I do. So I place that down there, and then I put a firewall over here to, again, tie up those Sentinels. I debate putting it kind of basically underneath the Gremlin Swarm, but I end up pulling it a little bit wider to make it even harder for him to charge the Death Knell. Just sort of restrict that placement a little bit more.
Yeah, I think with the first idea you had with the Gremlin Swarm, I just kind of vengeance around it and charge the Skin and Moans even.
Yep.
If I'm not in range of the Death Knell, or if I have to go through the firewall. It's not a great scene.
But with its placement here, I'm actually doing a bit of a better job of protecting those pieces. And here we go. The Furied Gorehound. It's going to go ahead, and I don't think it needs to charge. I think it can actually just walk, which is a big deal because, again, I'm looking for 6s to hit this guy, which are pretty reliable. But I've got 4 attacks. I'm hoping to hit with 3 of the 4 attacks, and at dice -2, do 15 damage. That's enough to maybe take out a system. If I get lucky and take movement out early, I hit another one. Probably take him out. So first one hits, pulls him in, just get him a little bit more out of position.
Yeah, it's dice -2.
Yeah, because you're pretty good armor. First bot attack misses. Second bot attack hits. Dice -2 does 5 more damage. Third bot attack hits and does 6 more damage.
Yep.
Pretty roughed up, but I don't think I took anything out.
You did not.
Good grouping. A couple of Gremlin Swarms just back off a little bit. Cage Ragers just march on up. One of them runs over the wall. The other one just advances over the wall. They're sort of in position to be the counterpunch. So, what have I given you here, Evan? What are you thinking?
So I definitely need to kill the Gorehound and the Gremlin Swarm that are in my zone. That way I can score it and also use the Banshee to go in on the Death Knell. I'm still looking to get something on that Skin and Moans. These Sentinels vengeance in such a way that they can still get the charge off onto the Skin and Moans, get a couple of damage in there. Thankfully, with some vengeance attacks, I truck the Gorehound pretty hard. Don't quite kill it, but it's not doing so well.
Leave it on 8 boxes,
yeah,
does some good damage. There's a cute little interaction here with Evan and I quibbled over for a bit, and I was like, "You need 7s to hit," and he's like, "No, I have Vet Leader, I need 6s," and I was like, "No, Annoyance is there, he needs 7s." So there's a little +1, -1, +1 situation going on.
Yep. And then I just start off by charging the Gorehound with a Scyir. Does a truckload of damage to this Gorehound in the top, and then the Harpy is just going to fly over with his extra attacks and finish it off with Crush and Flank. Turns out he doesn't really need either of those things and just murders it like really, really hard.
Yeah, yeah, it's a dead Gorehound. I'd hoped to take a little bit more out on this guy, or at least have him in a position where he's a bit more vulnerable. Maybe it was too cute to do that line of play. Who knows?
Yep.
I considered triggering Sacrifice there to heal the Gorehound over here. Ultimately, I think that would have been a mistake. Getting the 12 boxes back on him that Sentinel did just to make it a little bit trickier for you to get a Banshee and a Death Knell. I don't know. I think that would be a mistake, so I opt not to do it.
Goreshade here has to do some work of his own. So he's going to... So, for future reference, the Pathfinder gave... or the objective gave Pathfinder to the Banshee.
Yep.
Rather. Goreshade's going to have to go in, kill a Gremlin Swarm on his own, and hopefully have enough attacks left over to also finish off that Gorehound.
You allocated 2 and upkept all 3 spells?
I allocated 1 to the Phoenix.
Okay.
And 2 to the Banshee because I want to concentrate power both of them. Because at this point, I'm thinking about putting the Banshee into the Skin and Moans, just a full boosted gunshot. Take some boxes off of it for later on. Maybe force it to use a corpse or two to heal. So Goreshade is on 2 right now. So Goreshade is going in on the Gremlin Swarm, just walking, not going to charge. Needs, I believe it's 7s to hit because of annoyance. Misses his first attack. All right, I'll buy an attack. I debate boosting it, but I feel like I want to take this chance on the 7, because if I hit the 7, then I kill a Gremlin Swarm and maybe get an attack on a Gorehound. If I miss the 7, I have another crack at a 7 anyway, which is pretty good odds that'll kill the Gremlin Swarm either way. Miss the first attack, hit the second one, dice even, kills the Gremlin Swarm. And you pop Reckoning.
I do. This is a bold line of play this early in the turn, and maybe this is a mistake, and I'm sure a lot of GRYMKIN players will be like, your attrition line of play wasn't bad here. But I just really want to put a ton of pressure on Evan, either emotionally or in terms of his positioning for the turn. And I'm like, you're camping 0? Okay, cool. I have prey against your caster with my whole army because you've killed a warrior model. There's a limited number of warrior models in the list, too, so that's a relevant component to this. I mean, he does have to kill Gremlin Swarms eventually, but I feel like the things that are going to do that are pretty limited, and right now I want that Reckoning buff on Goreshade.
At the moment, I basically just ignore that entirely and say, okay, we'll deal with that later. I mini-feat in charge with the Sentinels, charge the objective with the 2 that are in range, and leave it on 1 box with the 2 Sentinel charges.
Correct.
I think, okay, well, the Phoenix can finish us off. No problem. That's fine.
Phoenix has got 2 focus.
Phoenix is going to go boost to hit for jokes, because whatever, we have the focus, we might as well use it. 1-1-2, good boost.
Yep, yeah, that hits, but only just.
And then you shield guard it to a Crabbit that I
do.
Totally forgot about, but I truck it for damage because it's a Phoenix.
Crabbit gets aggressively messed up. It is on 1 box.
Iris walks up, shoots the objective, and just deadly shot kills it.
That'll do.
It works out all right. So there's 1 point for me this turn. 2, because I'm also putting an Arcanist on my topside flag. And 3, because I'm hopefully going to clear my zone.
Yeah, you have to kill a Gorehound yet, but 3 points is a pretty aggressive start. And my comeback turn will have to involve killing a lot of Sentinels, which I'm not enamored with.
So I'm also trying to figure out how I can do some damage to the Skin and Moans. I know I have a couple of Sentinels charges on it, but I'm not sure if I just want to put those in and see what happens. I see that my Scyir, or Thane, rather, the Destor Thane, is actually in charge range of the Skin and Moans, because he is very fast, considering the heavily armored horse he's on. This last Sentinel, I try to squeeze by, see if I can make it without triggering the firewall, but I decide not worth risking it. He's just going to run, tuck into his 2 friends, and give them the armor buff.
Yeah, because he would have had to go over that firewall. Even with the mini feat, I think he dies on a 7.
He dies on a 7.
Yeah.
The rest of them, just going to go charge this Gorehound, get some work done. And now that the Gremlin Swarm's not there, they only need 6s to hit.
It's a big deal. And
first hit on the Gorehound.
Just kills it.
Just kills it.
That's a very efficient job.
And then we start rolling on the Skin and Moans. What was the armor on that? It's 20 currently.
It's arm 20 because
it's
it's
dice
got
off
2
8.
corpses.
So I do pretty well, to say the least. I think I do 10 and 6 for my damage rolls. So that does a good chunk to the Skin and Moans, to say
Yeah,
the
you leave it
least.
alive on 12 boxes. I do get to put a POW 12 into the Thane, who takes a point of damage.
Yep.
Down to 9 boxes.
He's okay with that. His gunshot hits. It's dice off 8, which isn't great. Doesn't do any damage. However, the POW 14 charge attack's not bad. It's full boosted. Hits. He is
6?
Yeah. Less spectacular than the Sentinels, but he leaves the Skin and Moans on 7 boxes.
Yeah. Kind of big. The Skin and Moans is not very healthy right now, and I really don't want him to be here in 7 boxes.
Yeah. Banshee goes in on the Death Knell. I debate charging. I can't quite reach it for walking, so I have to charge in to get both of my melee attacks. Because I don't think it's worth it if I'm just getting the sword.
And then now that you've charged, you up to boost the charge attack?
Yes, because I don't think it's... If I'm charging... it might be a bit of a sunk cost fallacy, but I really don't want to miss this charge. So I boost it, hit, I even crit Grievous, and then do, I think it's dice even, so 12 damage.
Yeah, 12 damage is big. It's down to 10 boxes. Your second initial, you take on the Skin of Moans, which misses.
Yep, and then I debate buying an attack on the Skin and Moans or the Death Knell. I decide to go with the Death Knell because the Skin and Moans, because I'm more likely to kill it with an attack.
Because it's down to 7 boxes and the Death Knell has 10.
Yes. I roll the hit, and kill a Skin and Moans. So this also means that I don't have to worry about a sacrifice next turn.
Yep.
That'll heal either the Death Knell or the Skin and Moans, or both, depending on what I happen to kill, to full health.
Yeah, I mean, the crit Grievous prevents that from affecting the Death Knell on my next turn, but it could possibly affect it on your next turn.
Correct.
And I've got some things that are pretty good at dying right now, like a 1 health Crabbit.
Yep.
So
I end my turn and score 3.
You sure do. You have 3 points. So, Goreshade is not within 10 inches of the Skin of Moans. That would answer this question really resoundingly, because if you're within 10 inches of the Skin of Moans, then I just charge you and kill you at Mat 9, POW Strength, arbitrarily high.
12 billion.
Yep. So, I could Gallows you. That probably means I need to move that Arcanist. And very critically, it means you have the opportunity to Witch Hound. To Gallows you effectively with the Cage Rager, I'd have to get the Cage Rager into a spot where there's currently a Sentinel. Means I'd have to kill that Sentinel with the 1 health Crabbit, question mark. It doesn't seem very good. The Banshee's kind of there being in the way with its whole wailing situation. That's not great either. I can back out a little bit, but again, getting that Cage Rager where it needs to be to arc the Gallows is a problem. Also, even if I Gallows you 5 inches and pull you straight toward me, maybe you just Witch Hound out of the way to safety.
Also very important here, you can't cast Lurker because of Wailing, because of the Banshee.
Correct.
So you can't get Pathfinder on the Skin and Moans until you deal with the Banshee somehow.
Yeah, the Banshees are a really big issue right now. So I start by activating a Cage Rager, who just advances and starts punching a Banshee. I'm opting not to beat back here. I'm just going for hits.
Does
Space
he
-2.
wail on it?
Ayo. Misses his second initial, buys an attack, misses that, buys an attack, hits, and does 4 more damage. Buys another attack. He does considerably below his average.
Man, 12-19 is a hell of a stat line.
Yeah, and 6-17 is just kind of in exactly the wrong place to damage it. I expected to hit 1 more of the 6s than I did. So I kind of look like, where can the other Cage Rager go? Can it get there? Yes, if it charges. Where's the 1-inch melee? Can the Death Knell back out, give him that spot, and stay within the Banshee's 2-inch melee? Because, first of all, the Death Knell definitely doesn't want to take a free strike from a Banshee. But moreover, the Banshee's now damaged. So if the Death Knell happens to hit it, it's a Weapon Master. It's got a POW 10 finisher attack.
Mm-hmm.
That could do a couple of points, which right now could matter a lot.
I think right now you're mathing out the spells that the Heretic has to cast or wants to cast.
Yeah, basically I just want to Gallows your face.
Crabbit jumps.
Yeah.
To kill the Arcanist that I've put in front of Goreshade.
Yeah, so the Crabbit jumps, boosts to hit, and then for some reason, probably a lot of games of playing the Child, I thought the Crabbits were 3. They're obviously 2. I boost damage and roll it and kill him. When we realize that in a couple of minutes, we're going to be like, oh, Crabbits are actually 2. We re-roll the damage to check that he would have rolled the 5 he needed to kill the Arcanist anyway, and then we remove the point of fury. So that's just the damage doesn't get boosted, fix it in post type of situation. I apologize for that mistake. As I say, we're back to recording now at a regular rate, but still feeling a little rusty. The Death Knell backs off, does not hit with its Knell, and is obviously out of range for its 0.5 attack, but it has made space for that Cage Rager to do the charge here. Cage Rager charges in, gets to his 1-inch melee range. It's pretty pinned in there, but that's fine. 1 to charge, needs a 6 to hit, and he boosts it to make sure the 6 happens. Dice -2, he puts 9 points of damage into you. Perfectly average, but still feels good compared to the other guys not average. Hits, and again, a little bit below average, puts another 4 points in, rolls an attack, hits with that one, and he kills the Banshee. That's the Banshee done. So from an attrition perspective, I don't think I'm in a great spot, but I'm not actually in a terrible spot. So I kind of I waver for a second. I think maybe what should happen here is I should just play a good attrition turn, like kill a bunch of Sentinels, score my own zone with the Heretic, maybe clear enough stuff away from a flag that I can get a point on that. Maybe that's the line of play instead. But I think Evan put enough initial scenario pressure on me that it's really just much safer for him to be dead.
I suppose that's one way of putting it.
I move up with this Crabbit here, who boosts it in attack. Boost it takes him only to 2 dice and needs a 7, so he misses that. He buys and boosts an attack, and then we're like, wait a second. Wait. Crabbits are Fury too. So we pull a Fury off that. He does not kill the Sentinel. We fix the other one. I roll the 2 dice just to confirm he did roll the 5 necessary to kill him, and both Crabbits are full on 2. Obviously, the Sentinel lives and has taken no points of damage because reasons. So I look at this and I'm like, well, what if the Cage Rager beat back? Oh no, he kills the Sentinels on double 1s, so he can't really do that. All right, let's just be a boss with the Heretic. So the Heretic activates. He doesn't want to cast Lurker, even though it would get him much closer into range, because he feels like he really needs that damage boost on the Gallows to just kind of rock a POW 15 at Goreshade. It's the dice -1 that I'm really hoping I'll just maybe do enough that I can take him out pretty trivially. So he camps his full stack and gets just into line of sight of him. He has to move over a little bit. He's got some movement at this point. Like he moved about 1 into the forest and then a couple inches. So he's got basically a couple of inches of play. So we're sort of seeing where he can be placed sufficiently such that he will not have Goreshade clip the Crabbit who went in to kill the Arcanist. Sort of a swallow the fly type situation. Went in to kill the Arcanist that was blocking. Now the Crabbit's possibly blocking. So Heretic, again, I said this is a swallow the fly situation. Heretic is now going to come in and possibly block the Skin and Moans. But that's fine because I think the Gallows is actually a pretty solid play here. Because of Reckoning, he's at 9. Pulls Goreshade 5 inches, which is pretty decent.
So at this point, I know that I can't Witchhound back out of range because Tim has rolled higher than a 4.
Yep.
So I'm going to try to skirt the forest in such a way that I'm out of line of sight of both the Heretic and the Skin and Moans.
Pretty solid line of play.
That said, I take 13 damage from the Reckoninged Gallows.
15.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it's bad.
A lot.
A lot of damage. No, sorry, that is 13. I don't know why I did the math wrong. It's dice -1. I rolled a 14. 13 damage.
Math.
Yeah, so Heretic's here. You've now moved yourself out of line of sight. I debate doing like an unboosted Hex Blast on my own Crabbit to get to you. But without being able to boost the damage on the blast, it's dice -7. I need to roll an 11 on 2 dice. It's not likely. I'd do it if I had another boost, but I don't, so it's fine. We placed down some steppers just to see if the Skin and Moans giving itself Lurker could walk into melee range with Goreshade. You've made the vector even worse because you've walked so that the Heretic is blocking even more. So that's not ideal. When we put the proxy base down at the 2-inch melee and move the steppers around there 3 inches, it's more than 2 inches to get there, so I don't quite have you with that Skin and Moans. If I could get that Skin and Moans into melee, I feel like I could probably do those last 4 boxes of damage.
Probably.
Or if I'd left some Gorehounds alive, or if even the Crabbit hadn't already activated.
despite being aggressively far forward, almost past the center line of the table, I'm pretty safe here.
Yeah. Cute moment that I didn't think about it at all. There's 2 Cage Raiders there I could totally arc through.
Yeah.
But I'm like, oh no, you're out of line
They're
of
both
sight.
engaged by Sentinels.
The second one there, maybe? Yeah. Probably.
I'm pretty sure.
Yep. Yeah. Is the condition that says you can't channel a rule for Arc Node or a rule for channeling?
I'm fairly sure it's a rule for channeling.
Okay. Anyway.
But
I opted
that
to
didn't
camp,
happen either way.
I upped to camp the 3 with the Heretic. And I've left you alive on 4 boxes. I run a Gremlin Swarm into the zone. And I'm like, well, maybe I live, and maybe you don't kill enough things to win the game this turn, and I get another crack at it next turn. The Gorehound walks out from behind the building, and he makes some attacks. Boosts damage. He's only about 12. Your armor 19 with unyielding, so I put some chip damage into him. Buys an attack, which unfortunately misses. Buys another attack. This one hits, but I don't, it's only 2 dice. Dice -7. Just puts a little bit more damage in. I think you're on 1 or 2 boxes, something like that.
The Destor Thane is surprisingly durable.
Sure is.
You run a Gremlin Swarm in front of the Heretic.
Yeah. Another piece that contests the flag. Just something kind of annoying in the way if you want to land a bunch of attacks on the Heretic.
So, it's my turn. My first thought is, well, I can kill the Heretic now. How hard could that be? Harder than you think. So, looking at it, you've got Crabbit for shield guard, so I can't quite shoot off your focus with Iris. I'd have to kill it with a Sentinel, but I'm not feeling too great about that.
Just a note to anyone who's wondering, the prohibition on channeling is engaged in melee, so
Yes.
I couldn't channel with either of those Cage Raiders anyway, so I didn't just make a game-losing mistake for no reason.
Good. But even then, what can I even get on the Heretic? Probably just the Warjack that Goreshade can spawn. And whether or not I don't think a light
Is
Warjack.
the Phoenix in? That's the one I wondered a little bit about.
Maybe. I think it might be a little far.
Okay. I mean, he's 15, 17, which means the Phoenix needs to boost and chase 9s. So he gets a charge, boosted, and then a buy boost. And he's concentrated power, so he goes to what? Power strength 20 also?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you get 2 power 20s, which I transfer both of them, probably.
Yeah.
And then your light Warjack comes in with a bunch of power 16s.
Mm-hmm.
4 of them probably actually boosts to hit twice. Yeah, I don't think you kill me. I think that's pretty unlikely.
I after thinking about it for not too long, I kind of abandoned that plan because I realized, all right, I'm at 3 points. I only need to score 2 to win. I definitely get to clear my flag, so I do that with the Phoenix. I probably overcommitted to him in terms of focus a little bit.
But just the chance of him rolling like a couple of 4s and it just like being 100% gone
was
like,
not okay.
You're trying to win the game here, so you're trying to give it every resource you have.
I also so I have to kill that Gremlin Swarm. I now am getting at least 1 point. And now I have to kill a Skin and Moans and another Gremlin Swarm. So I have a couple of charge because I want to score this middle flag. So I have a couple of cracks at killing the Gremlin Swarm. I roll a few times before I actually get it. And then I'm going to feat. Throw in a Siren, because it is the light Warjack I can have with the highest power to go into the Skin and Moans.
Yep. It's a pretty good choice here. The feat is really strong. I like it. I think it's a cool option.
Yeah. Siren goes, gets concentrated power from the Arcanist, and he's going to charge in. Unfortunately, I have to charge because I don't have flight on this particular variant. And I boost a hit again because I'm charging and need 7s, so I don't want to waste it. Dice minus, unfortunately, 5 because under the death mail, and it has 3 corpses. So this is actually a lot lower than I thought it would be, but I get to put in, I think, about 5 boxes over the course of my attacks. I move Iris up to score the flag. because the Arcanist I could have put there had to go in a concentrated power, and I figured at the time, this is the time I'm remembering it, so I used it. Critically here, when I declare a charge with the Sentinels, Tim pandemoniums it.
Yeah, that's a really big deal because 5 or 6 charging Sentinels probably kill that Skin of Moans, no problem. They're all in range to get the Vet Leader. They're all Power Strength 12 Weapon Masters. Like, they're going to wreck it. But I do deny that, which means instead of getting 6 or 7 in with charges, you get 5 in without charges.
This is something I didn't really take into account that I probably should have, and it's probably going to cost me scoring this middle flag because beyond these Sentinels, I don't really have anything that I can put damage in with onto the Skin and Moans, and only 2 of them hit their charges.
Yeah, those 2 do spike by quite a bit. They're quite useful. One thing that I was thinking about, Evan, sort of as we sort of workshop this back and forth, obviously we have not played many games with Goreshade -1, but bringing in Moros here, he's only POW 13 on his melee attacks, but he could have paralyzed on his hit.
Yes,
and he has an extra point of mat to hit with his initial attack, so that's a consideration because the feat does not say non-character. So
yes.
thing to think about.
That
definitely,
said,
no,
I felt pretty confident with the Vet Leader that I could hit some 5s, although apparently I was wrong.
Well, get good.
Yeah.
So you check to see if the Harpy has range, if it can
shoot
get
with
in
its
there
gun, just
get the Hail Mary.
Yeah.
It can go to red 8 if it wants, but I think it's just out.
It is. So I think at this point I look at the table and I go, oh, I feel a little bit foolish that I didn't just go and try to score my own zone because I thought I'd only had to kill the Crabbit. Then I noticed that there's a Gremlin Swarm there. And it's like, now I can't really use that as my backup plan either because I don't have anything that can kill the Gremlin Swarm in that zone. So I probably should have moved Goreshade in such a way that he kills the Crabbit or use the Sentinels for them and then spawned a Jack that can go and charge the Gremlin Swarm with magic weapons, whether it be Moros. Does Moros have magic swords? Either way, the Siren does. So whether it be that or the Siren.
Yeah, the Siren would be a safe bet.
To go kill the Gremlin Swarm in some way and then just get an easy point that way. But I kind of... When playing this scenario, I kind of got into the mindset that it's like, all right, and I have to score his things and protect mine, as opposed to thinking of just scoring my zone fairly easily. Because this scenario is a lot more live than I think most people have given it credit for. Because you think, oh, there's just 3 flags in the middle that never get scored. And that's not really the case.
The 2 Sentinels who charged the Gorehound miss it. Which is a little unfortunate. I think your thinking here initially was maybe if you kill that Gorehound, the Thane can go over and kill the Gremlin Swarm, but the Thane doesn't actually have a magic weapon.
Yeah. That was my original thought, and then I was like, wait, the gun isn't actually magical, as much as many Ret guns are. Like, every heavy Warjack gun is magical. But,
I think it's about the shields. I think it's just magic shields.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shale shields.
Mm-hmm.
That was a retribution pun. No?
No.
All right.
I guess we both had a Ret pun this game, so I can't really complain that much. All right. So yeah, at this point, I'm just kind of thinking, what are my backup plans? Because I've thrown Goreshade kind of into the middle of things, just being like, yeah, I'm going to win this turn. And then Pandemonium kind of wrecked that for me, and I'm a little bit upset about that.
We're GRYMKIN. We ruin your plans.
Correct.
That's what we're all about.
So at this point, I kind of just... I'm like, yeah, I guess I'll kill some models, because those are my options right now. So the thing goes and starts kicking at the Gorehound, and unfortunately doesn't do enough damage to kill it. I run the Scyir and the Harpy to be relevant next turn, if there is a next turn. And I ship it over to Tim, being a little bit disappointed that I didn't score that flag.
Yeah. There were a couple of things we kind of workshopped a little bit about that could have gone better this turn for you. The Gorehound over here frenzies and is closest to the Thane, so puts a damage roll into his back. Does, I think, 1 more point or maybe nothing. The Cage Rager actually doesn't freak out, which is nice. And the Crabbit over there does, and this is the Crabbit that's, again, on I guess it's 2 boxes he's actually on, because he had Spirit and Body. I said 1 box is a exaggeration, but he took 11 points. He doesn't kill anything, and the Skin of Moans activates, spends a couple of corpses to heal itself, so it gets all its aspects back, and then starts killing Sentinels, collecting their corpses, and using those points to heal. It then kills 1 more Sentinel, and gets up to 3 corpses. It has now killed all of the Sentinels that were in melee range of the Heretic, so he won't be taking any Sentinel free strikes when he walks over to Goreshade, and takes a couple of punches at the Feated Jack, the Siren there. Just maybe take an arm or something. Doesn't do very much. Between its 2 attacks, the first one does 5, second one hits and does 14, so...
Yeah, not too much damage at all.
Well, he rolled a 1 and a 2 on the first attack. I was like, oh yeah, he kind of whiffed this one. And he's like, oh, double 6s. Let's get in there. Let's show him what's boss. Doesn't kill him, but that's fine. The Heretic can stay in his melee range and still get to within 2. Heretic spends 2 to put Fury on himself. And let's auto hit with my Divine Stick. First damage roll.
Nothing.
Second damage roll.
Nothing. Or 2 damage, actually.
Third damage roll.
And I have no focus and die.
It's about right.
Yep.
So, kind of a neat game, actually. It ended up working out a little sideways. Like, I feel like we both made several kind of weird mistakes that gave the opponent capitalizing opportunity.
Yeah, I'd agree with that assessment.
Yeah. Anyway, leave a comment below. Let us know what you think. Let us know if you'd like to see more of the time-shifted casters. I think they are in the realm of playable. I think they are designed with, obviously by actual privateer press designers with serious mindsets about them. Even though they're not steamroller legal, I think they make for interesting games, diverse matchups that kind of force you to use your lists in different ways. If you disagree, then by all means, let us know. We are available to follow on Facebook, facebook.com/ArcaneAssist. You can check us out on Twitter. I'm at TEnchanter. Evan is at Estelos.
Yes.
And as of very recently, we have started a Patreon. We'll tell you all the details about that in another video, or you can check the link on the Patreon page. But basically how that works is we're continuing to create content, and if you like it and you want to help out with it, you can give us a $1 every Monday.
Yeah, or more if you like.
Yeah, more if you like. If you're of reasonable means and you want to continue to support the project, that's awesome. But if you want to give us $1 every Monday, you'll get the video a week early and access to some exclusive Patreon features, including the opportunity to have a bit of input on the content.
Exactly. And we should have a video explaining all of that either already on our channel or coming soon.
Yeah, so thanks very much, folks, and we'll see you next Monday.
See you next Monday.